Presenting rare original footage from the first quarter century of motion pictures, selected from the archives of the Killian Collection. As early as 1899, the movies, then invented only a couple of years, attempted to document events in the news. The Dutch homesteaders and the British were fighting the Boer War in South Africa. Although authentic footage was shot in Africa, air travel had of course not yet appeared, and boat travel was slow. To get war footage sequences halfway around the world to American theaters would have taken much too long for them to retain their news value. So enterprising American filmmakers saw nothing unethical in restaging the Boer War closer to home using actors. In this reenactment on a New Jersey farm, a Dutch artillery battery is resisting an attack by British Highlanders. Staged reenactment footage of the Spanish-American War was similarly shot by the Edison studio. Alert turn-of-the-century moviegoers could have known it wasn't the real thing by the way this oncoming Highlander laughs as he goes by the camera. But it still seemed like miraculous news coverage and survives as one of the few film records of an event of the 19th century. Though himself a country boy from Kentucky, D.W. Griffith in his formative years at Biograph became fascinated by the everyday dramas of the inner city. The hallway of an East Side tenement actually is set in Biograph's New York studio on 14th Street, which was then comparatively uptown. At times, it will be hard to see little Kathy, partly because she's so small, but also because cameraman Billy Bitzer never anticipated the frame cropping later caused by sound requirements, and the even later television screen cutoff. The upstairs boarder comes in from shopping and drops a piece of bread. Though he's the neighborhood miser, he can't resist being nice to Kathy. The titles are our movie museum substitutes for the decomposed and missing original titles, as close in text and spirit as we can reconstruct them based on the one-page scenario in the files. Before he leaves town, sneak thief Jules will enjoy some stolen pastry in the little courtyard by the cellar stairs. We've tried hard to identify the little girl playing Kathy. It was neither Adele DeGard nor Gladys Egan, who usually played Biograph's little girls, but were a little older than this one. And of course, this was 20 years before Shirley Temple first appeared. The miser checks his safe covered by a carpet and almost off screen. Kathy pays off her debt. As the thieves approach via the roof next door. Kathy quite likes the miser's apartment. He forgot to count up something. The miser's private ledger was not necessarily illegitimate. This was 1911, and the personal income tax didn't start until 1914. Kathy thinks it's bedtime. The thief with the mustache is played by Wilfred Lucas. The other is Charles Mayers. Both versatile Biograph repertory actors. Kathy ingenuously tries to protect her friend. The combination, or Kathy goes out the window. The original sneak thief, Jules, retires in the court below. The dummy substitute for Kathy is made to look quite real. Strings twitch her legs. But next, in a closer shot with a net underneath, it's really Kathy, who drops her doll. The sneak thief's original victim spies him. Will the police believe a thief reporting a robbery? The thief's original victim, the baker, is played by Bobby Harron, who would play leads in most of Griffith's later features. Alfred Hitchcock once commented that there was something of Griffith in every film ever made, including, of course, his own. So, and not so indirectly, this simple suspense climax is a forerunner of many similar, if more elaborate, Hitchcock climaxes, ranging from the hero and his girl tied to a collapsing stair banister in Number 17, the hero trying to save the villain from falling from the Empire State Building in Saboteur, and of course, Cary Grant, hanging from the presidential faces on Mount Rushmore in North by Northwest. Some film historians say the miser is played by Eddie Dillon. We disagree, but we haven't been able to identify who it really is. Not one of Biograph's regulars. The end is best summed up by the original Biograph subtitle, quote, "He experiences a love greater than the love for gold," unquote. The Miser's Heart, Griffith, Biograph, 1911. Movie Museum, presenting rare original footage from the first quarter century of motion pictures, selected from the archives of the Killian Collection. Her Torpedoed Love was a comedy of First World War U-boats and one of the most topical of the Senate comedies. Louise Fazenda. Wayland Trask. In his new Hudson limousine, the master of the house, with his butler, Philip No-Brains. The master is about to leave on a transatlantic vacation. The butler, played by Ford Sterling, has a scheme to get Louise's husband to go on the voyage too. And sure enough, hubby gets the job as cabin boy. Hubby, of course, is completely unaware that the butler has an eye on Louise. Goodbye, I've got a great proposition in the steamship business. They tell me I'll clean up, signed hubby. Ford Sterling made 300 comedies during his 8 years at Keystone. He remained best known as the chin-whiskered head man of the Keystone Cops, even though he went on to important comedy leads at Paramount in the 1920s. His very last screen role in the late 1930s was a return to his Keystone Police chief role in a film paying tribute to Senate. And here's what he's added to the note. P.S. I hope I drown before I see you again. Louise is staggered. He doesn't love me. What a cad. In 1914, Sterling got offers from other companies. Senate, for protection, hired Charles Chaplin. Sterling stayed. One of Senate's favorite formulas was that of cutting large men with small minds down to size. And now, hubby is just where the butler would have wanted him, in irons. Before United States entry into the First World War, the U-boat menace was a popular topical theme for movies. It hadn't yet come close to home. But only Max Sennett could have devised a way of getting the U-boats and Keystone slapstick into the same movie. It's a credit to the national sense of humor at the time, too. The Lusitania had been sunk the year before, and when this picture came out, the Germans had just announced unrestricted sub-warfare. However, you'll have noted that in the film, the German U-boats are referred to only as submarine pirates. That's because the film was reissued in the 1920s, and the new distributors didn't want to stress its age, so they deleted references to its wartime period. Back home, the Victrola Wireless Company, messages delivered on record time. Lavender Star steamer torpedoed, all on board lost. Signed, A. Sparks, operator. Though Louise Fazenda was pretty, she was perfectly willing to play the ugly duckling. But his well-laid scheme miscarries. She won't even give him a little allowance on account. Louise's husband survived the torpedoing, little knowing that while he was in the sea floating alone, the double-dealing butler was trying to float alone from Louise. In fact, his scheme goes deeper than that. A mock marriage to Louise. Ford Sterling's early days were as slapdash as his pictures. As a boy, he ran away from home and toured as Kino the Boy Clown in an acrobatic circus. This is one of the rare instances where a Senate joke depended on a wordplay indicated only by title. Motivation for the chase is now set. Hubby has to chase the fake minister to prevent his wife from committing unintentional bigamy. Although Mabel Normand was the glamour gal comedienne of the Keystone lot, Louise Fazenda was the outstanding slapstick lady clown. She'd started at $2.50 a day, playing extras when she was a Los Angeles high school student in 1913. Her pigtailed curls were her trademark. Sennett once insured them for publicity for $10,000. Hubby catches the opportunist parson and then goes after the opportunist husband. Ford finally finds Louise's penny bank. So naturally, she'll be after him now, too. Ford Sterling can't start this Sterling Ford 1914 model. The difference in speed between the old silent films and the present sound systems makes these films seem faster than when they were shot. But the fact that Max Sennett did most of the chase scenes at still faster speed makes many of the scenes difficult to follow. Such plot as we can follow is more than casually influenced by Tilly's Punctured Romance, the play which, in 1914, Sennett had turned into the movie's first feature-length comedy. Its basic storyline and characters were to serve Sennett well for many years to come. This is Santa Monica. Some Californians will claim the driving styles haven't changed. The powder keg naturally rolls right under the car. The master wasn't lost at sea either. And so they all pile into this 1912 Packard touring car and go off to the station house. Louise Fazenda went on to the 1930s and talkies. She married producer Hal Wallace and gained a reputation for selfless community spirit and service to charity. Movie Museum, presenting rare original footage from the first quarter century of motion pictures, selected from the archives of the Killian Collection. Part 2 of our three-part presentation of 1921's My Boy, with then 5-year-old Jackie Coogan. Jackie plays an illegal immigrant to the United States, fighting fiercely to remain in the country he has already come to love. Hunted by the immigration authorities and unaware that he is being sought also by rich relatives who wish to adopt him, Jackie has found a home with Captain Bill, a grouchy old sea dog, whose ill temper has been softened somewhat by Jackie's affectionate nature. The naturalness of these scenes is due not only to Jackie's unself-conscious manner, but also to expert handling of the young star by co-directors Victor Heerman and Albert Austin. English-born Heerman, himself a former child actor, wrote the story of My Boy and guided Coogan through many later successes. Austin was also an actor, having played a comic foil for Chaplin, and just a year earlier had been Mary Pickford's leading man in a film quite similar to this one, Suds. Thwarted thus far, the immigration officials are still on the track. Mrs. Blair is, of course, the long-lost wealthy grandmother of Jackie. Mrs. Blair and Jackie, of course, have never met, but she lives in the neighborhood. The sort of fate that worked overtime in Jackie Coogan pictures and later in those of Shirley Temple brings the two together, neither knowing the identity of the other. Jackie cooking breakfast for his bedridden benefactor is another casual plagiarism from The Kid, which Jackie had made the year before. Captain Bill is played by Claude Gillingwater. Jackie Coogan's ill-fitting outfit, from the cap worn backwards down to the frayed edges of his baggy trousers, consisted of discarded adult clothing and became a trademark with him, just as the bowler, baggy pants, and cane had with Chaplin. But of course, Jackie outgrew his outfit long before Chaplin did. While Jackie Coogan undoubtedly had learned a great deal from Chaplin working with him in The Kid, He was a great little trooper on his own, with talent to spare. His performance in this film, running the gamut from pathos to song and dance and straight comedy, helped convince the doubters, who had given most of the credit for Jackie's success in The Kid to Chaplin, and paved the way for a whole series of filmic escapades along similar lines. Peck's Bad Boy, for instance. Jackie has brought in a lot of extra business for the organ grinder, who ungratefully offers a single coin. And business like Jackie realizes he will have to take more drastic steps. And so into another one of those high-speed chases without which no Coogan film was complete. Whether the pursuer was a heavy, as here, or an officer of the law, audiences rooted for Jackie and applauded whenever he outwitted his adversary, as he always did. Astonished Captain Bill is more convinced than ever that he did the right thing in hiding Jackie from the immigration authorities. But of course, Captain Bill knows that the law cannot be ignored forever, and that trouble still lies ahead. As in all Coogan films, the dramatic crisis was held for the last reel. And the last reel, in this case, will be our next Movie Museum program, which will conclude My Boy with Jackie Coogan.